Her headless body was found in a river. 39 years later, she would finally be identified. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of the Jane Doe named Millie. Viewer discretion is advised. It was June 20th, 1984, in the Spokane River, which was near the Spokane Falls Community College. The body of a woman was found floating in the river. The young woman was missing her hands, her feet, and her head. The coroner determined that this body had been dismembered pretty crudely, like possibly with an axe or sawed apart. It wasn't really professionally done. Like the person didn't really know what they were doing. They believed the woman had been dead for sometime around 48 to 72 hours, but there was no identification. And once they put the information out to the public, nobody came forward to state that, their loved one was missing. They took DNA, but back in 1984, DNA technology wasn't really a big thing yet. On April 19th, 1998, a human skull was found. It was found, near the corner of Sherman and 7th Street in a vacant lot, also in Spokane, Washington. They would do this recreation of the person's skull because immediately they weren't sure if it was a man or a woman, but eventually through further examination, they determined that this was a woman's skull. They came up with another composite drawing of what this woman may have looked like, and eventually they would piece together that this skull belonged to the body that was found in 1984. They were able to determine that through DNA and the angle of the saw marks done to dismember her body. However, it still did not help them identify her. Nobody came forward to state that, yeah, that's my loved one. By 2020, 2021 or so, they came up with this computerized rendering of the woman, and still it yielded nothing. And finally, that's when Othram Labs got involved. And that's when they did the DNA sequencing, building a DNA profile, which then they could use through familial DNA. And eventually they tracked her DNA to a family and finally found out who she was. It was a 24-year-old woman named Ruth Waymire. This is a photo from her during high school. It's pretty much the only photo that's ever been released. She had been married twice. She did live in Spokane, Washington at the time of her disappearance. It was reported that her and her husband were living a vagrant lifestyle, and she had been estranged from any of her remaining family members for quite some time. Her second husband, who she was still married to when she vanished, never reported her missing. And so that obviously became a giant red flag to police. Her husband's name was Trampus Vaughn, but he died in 2017 before they identified who she was. He is considered a prime suspect in this, mainly because he never reported her missing, and he just continued on with his life. Ruth's first husband has been very cooperative with police, and while he hasn't officially been ruled out as a suspect, they don't believe he had anything to do with this. If you have information about her murder, please call 509-456-2233.